All right, everybody. Welcome to a new week of shows. 5 episodes coming in Monday to Friday for you. A lot on the docket. We got the America Party, which has been started up by Elon Musk. Interesting. There's a lot, and then we got the Epstein thing going crazy. A lot of X platform has exploded with the Epstein thing. So just prior to going live, Blake and I were talking a little bit about the America Party, what it's kind of about, what they're suggesting it is. And there's a lot of confusion around all of it. Who's going to head it up? Elon's not going to be the face of it. He's going to be the power. He'll be the kingmaker. He'll be behind it, but he wants different people. And you're getting some, like Mark Cuban wants to join his efforts. And and they've been jumping. So it very the Krasenstein brothers. Have you know who they are, Blake?
No, I don't. No.
Liberal influencers that absolutely
okay.
hate Trump. The two brothers, Krasenstein's kind of interesting, and even Mike Pence has been coined as one of the individuals. But the fear about Elon starting this party is it's going to be a big hit on MAGA, and I strongly feel that it's not going to impact MAGA at all, in large measure because of what Elon has been saying himself. Let me just grab one picture that kind of, I think it's in my memes category. Yeah. So here's two things. This is really interesting. And I'll share this one right away. And then I want to thank, as always, Sue for helping us out. My lovely wife. She's off camera, but she brings up a lot of links. But I'll just start up. This is a meme, a couple of things I put together, and you can take a look, folks. And okay, so what I want to do is make sure it's as large as I can make it. Large as I can make it. There we go. So Elon Musk, and by the way, I'm actually a socialist, just not the kind that shifts resources and on he goes about socialist it. And then he also put this out. The only action needed to solve climate change is a carbon tax. So he's coming out with just right there. He also made some interesting comments on assault rifles, talking about a registry, talking about trying to make these weapons harder to access, harder to get. So, that impacts the Second Amendment. So a lot of people weren't aware of exactly where he's coming from. This is not the only post where he said, I'm a socialist. Somebody else said, so what you're saying is, and in a separate conversation to that post, he also came out and said, yeah, I'm a socialist. These kind of policies are not going to draw MAGA to him. He's not going to win a single vote away from Trump. And keep in mind the iconic image. Trump took a bullet for the American people. Elon did not. So that's part of his problem right there. But is any of that new to you, what I just showed you, Blake?
Yeah, it is absolutely new. I wasn't paying attention to all of his tweets. He definitely doesn't sound as though he is socialist, but he did admit prior to coming over to join MAGA that he would qualify himself to being a liberal historically.
Yeah.
And but he does believe in free market capitalism, because otherwise he would never have made what
Correct.
he made without being a free market capitalist. So that's new to me. My question would be is then, what's the intent of this? Because if we can talk wholly on the 3D chess game or the 4D chess here, are they playing some game here to try and draw out a number of the progressive left, or to kind of marginalize them, shift the Democratic Party to a different direction? Is it to go at the Democrats, or is it to find a true middle between Republicans and Democrats, where there seems to be the old saying is, politics is best served where everybody gathers, which is in the middle. And though those of us that believe in MAGA is a middle position. Actually, no matter what anyone says, it supports individual rights and freedom.
It's populist, right?
Yeah, exactly. but it also is constitutionalist. That's the other side. They're asking for a reinstatement of the U.S. Constitution. They're not asking for anything more than that. Just respect the Constitution. Stop playing games and eroding those rights and freedoms that have been built into it. They're 1776. That's who MAGA is.
Yeah, exactly. The first and the only no kings movement we're talking about. Okay, breaking. Donald Trump just broke his silence on Elon Musk creating a third party. Third parties have never worked, so he can have fun with it, but I think it's ridiculous. I stand with MAGA party, and there's the president. You can make him beg him. We'll hear him.
Elon Musk starting a third party.
I think it's ridiculous to start a third party. We have a tremendous success with the Republican Party. The Democrats have lost their way, but it's always been a two-party system. And I think starting a third party just adds to confusion. It really seems to have been developed for two parties. Third parties have never worked. So he can have fun with it, but I think it's ridiculous.
I think the president's so correct. And this is why, even though Ross Perot did quite well, you were telling us, Blake, he garnered 20% of the vote, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. And that would be 20% of a lot of voters he drew in that were who didn't vote, who weren't going to vote. So he did grab a lot of voters that were first-time voters or had not voted in a long time.
And yet, even at that, he was unsuccessful ultimately in getting what he wanted. The money, the power is so entrenched. The system is already so established. I think the president is absolutely right about that. So I put up a link called American Party 4%, America Party 4%. It's just kind of the last one that I
saw that one with that CNN, right?
I think CNN were reporting on it. So I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the bottom. All right. She's on it, ladies and gentlemen. And you can roll this tape, Sue.
Yeah, this entire thing makes very little sense to me. It makes about as much sense as selling sand in the desert. What are we talking about here? What is the size of Elon Musk's base? Well, I calculate it to be about 4%, just 4%, 1, 2, 3, 4% of all voters. What is that base made up of? Well, it's those who view Elon Musk favorably and the GOP unfavorably. We're talking just about 4% of all voters out there, because it turns out most of the people who like Elon Musk already like the GOP already. That is, they already have a party for him. In my mind, there is just no base for Elon Musk's third party in the electorate, at least initially speaking.
All right. When we talk about third parties,
All right. So again, this reflects the reality that the president was talking about. And of course, I just showed at the top of the program here, Blake, the comment about a carbon tax. That's Canada. I mean, it sounds like Elon should never have left his beloved Canada. He comes out of South Africa, moves into Canada. He's kind of a Canadian too. And he's talking like a Canadian, like the idea of the carbon tax, his comments on assault rifles, sounding very Canadian, very elbows up-ish.
Yeah.
And then add to that the whole idea, I'm a socialist. Again, sounding very Canadian, right? This guy, it sounds like you can take the boy out of Canada, but you can't take Canada out of the boy. I can't see him impacting MAGA at all. I don't see him making a dent. He's too easy to discredit for any MAGA. And in fact, I put that socialist comment out, and I did a little meme with Karl Marx there. Karl Marx in the manifesto, the Communist Manifesto, mentions the word socialism 44 times. And when I put this out and Elon going, I'm a socialist, an American commenter saw that post of mine and says, I didn't know this. I go, unfollowing him right now. Like he's dead to me. Just that word alone, socialist, is so negative to such a great proportion of MAGA. Say what you will about the phony baloney GOP. We're aware of rhinos. We know there's trouble there, but we trust Trump. We really do trust him. And the fact that they tried to kill him, They tried to impeach him. They did impeach him twice.
More than once. Yeah.
Twice. Yeah. And, you know, and there's been efforts since then to try and impeach him again, which have got zero momentum, because I think even the main portion of the Democrat DNC recognize you cannot go after Trump that way. It always boomerangs, comes around and hurts you big time. By the way, folks, the Democrat Party right now is polling around 19% favorability. Their numbers are in the toilet. It's just horrible right now. And I mean, there's a lot of positive energy going the president's way. He just came off a huge winning week. There's just so much good happening. Yes, there's problems, and we'll switch topics shortly to the problem of the Epstein, the confusion around that. But for now, we'll just on this topic, GOP. Do you think he's going to be grabbing MAGA? Who's he going to appeal to? Elon's America Party.
Well, after our backstage discussion before we started today, I mean, the more I would look at it is that they are trying to go after I would say the Bernie bros. You know, that was those that supported Bernie Sanders back before he got ousted and then became a turncoat to his own position just for money and power.
Yeah.
When the Clintons basically turfed him off to the side. When he was running against Clinton, the whole Democratic machine found a way to cheat him out of that position. He probably would have won, but they cheated. So that's going to get the Joe Rogans. That's going to get those kind of guys to kind of look that way. You know, these were people that fought the Wall Street madness, the big protest in Wall Street back in 2008, 2009.
What did they call that? What, the Wall Street thing? I forget that. That was what the hell was that? They had the movement. They had the name for it.
Yeah, it was Occupy Wall Street.
Occupy Wall Street. That's the one.
So they just camped out on Wall Street, and which was different. I mean, it was much more polite. It wasn't like the crazy black-faced Antifa types ripping up, or the APEC riots in Seattle, the battle in Seattle. It was basically a protest against the crony capitalist system, which I think was a valid fight. That's where the guys like Tim Pool came out of, right? They came out of Occupy Wall Street because they saw the corruption was so bad and the banking cartels were working in collusion. You know, they were allowing entire banking systems banks to collapse like Lehman Brothers. So it really was a changing event, which kind of catapulted Bernie Sanders. He kind of jumped on that, which was kind of interesting. Bernie Sanders is kind of he's an odd character. He's definitely he's got Marxist roots in him. But he believes in the First Amendment. He believes in the Second Amendment. So those are all critical.
The problem for Bernie, he was recently on Rogan, and Rogan basically showed up the incompatible, the contradictions, the hypocrisy within Bernie's own platform. So it revealed him not to be the noble knight of righteousness, coming in, fighting against the machine, one lone David with a stone against the Goliath, corporate Goliath. No, in fact, because Rogan, to his credit, pressed him on a number of issues, and he didn't come up sounding like he was anti-capitalist. And all Bernie could go, I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't understand that. I don't know about that. There was a lot of I don't know coming out from him. And you never want to be in that position. As a politician, you want to come in. And the pundits were reflecting on this, saying this is why a lot of the left did not go on Rogan, because Rogan will rip you alive if you aren't consistent with your messaging. That was the great strength for Trump. Trump came in there, Rogan threw what he threw at anybody, and Trump just came out shining, absolutely shining. I don't believe that Elon Musk is going to be able to come out shining.
I think if he's playing like Musk is about, I think he supports the MAGA movement. I I can't see somebody having that dramatic of a shift unless his whole intent was to work for the Democrats all along to kind of wedge the MAGA movement out. I mean, if you're really thinking about the deep state on how clever they are, and
Yeah.
some people have pointed out Elon's roots are in the deep state. He
Yeah.
wouldn't have gotten all that funding to, have SpaceX and flying rockets to space and having that much power
Yes.
as a private person
He's one
without
of the
having
most
the government in there.
He's one of the most subsidized individuals in history. Like there, he got a lot of help from the American government with various projects of his. The EV thing, because the whole push, right? Canada's big on this. The world is big on this, right? The whole environmentalist climate change bullshit. And, so there's a lot of theories. There's some conspiracy. He could actually, as you say, if he draws in on the Bernie bros, a lot of those Bernie bro guys, that's your libertarians, but it's also your more conservative leaning Democrats. Somebody like Pennsylvania's boy, Fetterman, right? Fetterman kind of, if Elon was smart enough to get Fetterman, I think he could make some real damage, especially with some young people. One of the names I heard him touting is like Mark Cuban says, I'm on board to help you out. I'm willing to be in there. And he got the guy Kissinger, or the guy that was crying all the time. Cat turds always mocking him. And then and then of all people, Mike Pence was heralded as Mike Pence, excuse me, Mike Pence, the former vice president, was being suggested or put forward as a possible face to this movement. So the whole thing seems like a clusterfuck, and no wonder they're sitting around at 4%. I just can't see it.
Well, they're not even a registered party. It turns out that somebody had posted that they had registered. They didn't. Elon came out and said, no, that's a fake. I have not done it. So, there, to say 4% at a party that doesn't even exist yet would still be pretty strong. You think 4% out of nothingness, from going against two parties that have been around for 200 years, would be still pretty strong to look at. But regardless, I don't think it's going to happen. My personal belief, I just think it's to get some of the spendy pants people in the Republican Party that have been elected to start being what they're preaching, like the DeSantis conversation that he made about it recently. I think you retweeted that one, where he's actually saying, we can do this inside. We need to change inside the Republican Party. Go after those representatives and senators that just won't change. They lie. They preach. They preach to you what you want to hear, but they do the opposite when they're elected. And we've seen that in Canada, right? With the Conservative Party too. They'll preach. They'll try and convert you, and then take your vote, and then do just the opposite, like a Doug Ford in Ontario, right?
Yeah, and Thomas Massey is being singled out by MAGA as a problem child. That we want him primaried, so we'll see what happens with him.
Well, I think he kind of falls within the. I think the problem is that we've seen this in religious terms, right? Within the Christendom, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get people that become fundamentalists, and Massey's a fundamentalist, right? With regards to libertarianism, and he's. Rand Paul's a little lighter, but not, and I think that's the problem. You get these fundamentalists that come in and say, you're not going to be able to have a pure libertarian system overnight. It's not going to happen. You got to convince people over time. It's not something, oh, hey, we got our guy in there. Okay, let's cut everything to zero. and not have a dramatic negative impact to the economy overall, though it would feel good. Hey, I'd love to see a lot of these government bureaucrats and people just annihilated out of the government. Get out of there. You're all pink slipped, and we're no longer going to fund certain things. But you've got real people. I think that's the difference. I think Trump sees real people. He says these are real people. Doesn't matter if they work for the government. They have lives. They have families. They worked hard. They're not in the power elite. They've got jobs. If we cut a million people, that's a million people who are no longer working, contributing to the economy, even though they are taking from the economy because they're non-productive class. But you can't just annihilate it all at once. You have to slowly cut, and then allow the private sector to expand, so there's jobs opening up. So when they leave and they no longer have a position, it becomes a redundant position, they can move into the private sector. But there is legitimate government agencies and positions that should be cut for sure. Like, we talk about some of the insane money being spent all over the place for projects that don't benefit anybody, right? Outside of some left-wing dingbat professors and stuff like that. But
I think one of the great strengths of President Trump is his authenticity. So even some of his worst critics will say, well, yeah, he's an asshole, or he's a buffoon, or he's an orange clown, or whatever. But they don't, he's a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get with Trump. I think it speaks to his integrity. I think it's just one of the real popular aspects about the guy as an individual, as a man. He wears his heart in his sleeve and the world sees it. Some political called Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, faking a Bronx background now. It reminds me of Kamala Harris. Faking accents, according to the crowd, she patronized. Don't know who she is, so got it from Russell Brand. Well, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is one of the more left-leaning candidates or Congress people in the U.S. She has a background. She claims she comes from a poor background. She doesn't, in fact, come from a poor background.
Upstate New York.
But it makes for a great story. It went for her base and trying to gain points politically. Canada has the same problem. Carney's pandering. Pierre Poilievre is one of the worst panderers. I just saw a tweet, like a post. We use the old language, tweet, where they're actually posts. We repost. You don't tweet no more. That's all the old thing. But anyway, and Poilievre is talking about two Sikh candidates in the Conservative Party. There are I don't know. I don't want to exaggerate too much, but I'm going to say on a safe bet, there's about 24 candidates that were elected in the Conservative Party that are of a Sikh background, right?
Yep.
And not all of those Sikhs were born in Canada. I would, in fact, would be very interested to see what percentage of those people weren't even born in Canada. The point is that you've got Poilievre at the Calgary Stampede. Somebody's there. I haven't been there in a long time. Somebody goes, I went back and I saw the Stampede. Boy, it sure changed since I was there. And it's got floats going by with the Sikh temple on board. I mean, it's got the little, I don't know what you call them, a minaret or whatever. Yeah. Little Sikhism temples floating by on, the floats, right? And so there's Poilievre, and he just got slammed. And then I saw this thing, an article on Toronto police, and they're all being trained. They're all wearing turbans or the little kerchief from the Khalistani religion. It's just horrific. And then what do we got here? There's so much going on. Okay, here's.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah.
Okay, so propaganda versus reality. It is astonishing. This is Viva Frey, the Montreal lawyer now residing in Florida State. It's also now obvious why Mark Carney had to add music over the original audio. Well, let's make it big and play it.
Canadian summer, making friends, crushing cans, holding hands, nose Muskoka. You're blinking, it's over. Driftwood campfire nights in the land of the northern sky. And ooh, out at the...
Please welcome the Right Honorable Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada.
Oh my God, everyone's booing.
All right. So yeah, I got, so he put some music over a big patriotic kind of, America, rah-rah kind of America with cowboy Western music, country Western.
Yeah.
So your thoughts on what we just saw there?
Well, I mean, he keeps pointing to the fact that he was from Alberta when he was a kid.
Yeah.
He was actually, I think he was born in the Yukon originally,
Okay.
but yeah, his roots as a child are here, but his international status, he carries 3 passports, Canada, he has an Irish passport, and I believe he has a British passport. So I think people have been accusing him is like, turn in your passports, keep your Canadian one if you're going to be a Canadian, but you can't have an exit strategy and run, you're not outside of the country. But I think the fraud in this is the propaganda that, oh, hey, he can represent Western Canada. There's the country music. That's what makes the West different from the East. Is the West is very ingrained in its cowboy culture, especially in Alberta.
Oh yeah, very much.
Resource culture, oil, roughnecks. I mean, he's
Farm.
trying to farmer.
Yeah.
It's especially Saskatchewan but Alberta was probably more on the ranching side.
Yeah, ranch.
And then you got really rural BC and most of British Columbia until you get there was somebody who drew a map about the Western Republic of Canada, and it showed that's a good map to show because you'll notice it cuts Vancouver Island, Vancouver.
Yeah,
so
we're in with Washington State and San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think the difference is that they would, but I was just going to say that part of British Columbia, that interior British Columbia is very much like Alberta. When you go there, the people are very similar.
I bought that in the interior British Columbia.
Well, there you go. But I think Carney's doing his act, and that's what he is. I think he's really he's a WF actor. He's here to keep Canada on the course, to try his best to try and at least taper down the effects of Trump. But I don't think he can. I think he has no choice. I still question. They moved Brookfield down to New York in October. That's a big sign. I do believe that behind the scenes, in the end, he's going to have no choice but somehow bring Canada to an economic union with the United States. Without it, Canada dies. There doesn't matter what you do. You could say, oh, we'll diversify our trade to Europe. But look what you're going to sacrifice. Europe's asking for us to join the EU. People are saying, no, they're not doing that. They're not trying to. No, they are. They are wanting us to become part of the EU. If we're going to be part of the EU's national defense strategy, that means you are a partner, a member of the EU, which means the EU is saying, hey, we have an opportunity to take Canada here.
And then Brussels will dictate our policies and we'll have to submit to them.
Well, Trump would never allow that.
That's the beauty. That's exactly that's the beauty. That's the weakness. That's the fly in the ointment for him.
And this is where the elbows up crowd all think they've got, Carney's got this ace in the hole. It's the EU. No, it's not, because he's got his hands in China, and so does the EU. So there's a real rotten to the core connection there with China that needs to be, as we're seeing now, which we could show some links to that about how that's blowing up in Canada even more. That CSIS put out an alert last week, late last week, that there is an espionage mole going on. They know who it is. Tell us.
Yeah, they never will.
Say it. You know?
They never will. This is really interesting. It speaks to the integrity, the honesty, the transparency of Donald Trump. Yeah. He said, listen, Monday, I'm going to be sending out the letters on Monday. It's true. Japan got one. Korea got one. I think this one I'm sharing here, Sue's helping us out, is the one he sent off to Malaysia. His Excellency. It's hard to make a big. Well, scroll her down. Let's read what the president is saying. They're all kind of a cookie cutter message. They're all basically the same with a few changes depending who he's talking to. But dear Mr. Prime Minister, it's a great honor for me to email you this letter, in that it demonstrates the strength and commitment of our trading relationship. The fact the U.S. has agreed to continue working with Malaysia despite having a significant trade deficit with our great country. You're a great country. Nevertheless, we have decided to move forward with you, but only with more balanced and fair trade. Therefore, we invite you to participate in the extraordinary economy of the U.S., the number one market in the world by far. We have had years to discuss our trading relationship with Malaysia and have concluded that we must move away from these long-term and very persistent trade deficits engendered by Malaysia's tariff and non-tariff policies and trade barriers. Our relationship has been unfortunately far from reciprocal. Starting on August 1st, 25, we will charge you 25% on any and all Malaysian products sent in the U.S., separate from all sectorial tariffs. Goods transshipped to evade a higher tariff will be subject to that higher tariff. Please understand that the 25% number is far less than what is needed to eliminate the trade deficit disparity we have with your country. As you are aware, there will be no tariffs in Malaysia, or companies within your country decide to build or manufacture products within the U.S. And in fact, we will do everything possible to approve quickly, professionally, and routinely. In other words, in a matter of weeks. If for any reason you decide to raise your tariffs, then whatever the number you choose to raise, we're going to add a 25% on top of that. Please understand these tariffs are necessary to correct the many years of Malaysia's tariff and non-tariff policies and trade barriers causing these unsustainable trade deficits against the U.S. This deficit is a major threat to our economy and indeed our national security. And these are being sent all over the place. I saw the one addressed to Japan. There's one to Korea that he sent out, South Korea. So it is absolutely amazing to see. What a strong arm. We know already that Trump has brought in, it's already been reported, even by antagonistic media centers such as MSNBC, that Trump's pulled in $221 billion in tariff trade alone. Just the tariffs are reaping that kind of reward. Now, there's another link I have for you, Sue, and this one is called Canada No Deal. No deal, no trade deal, Canada. Okay, so this is interesting. This is second from the top. So Trump sent these letters out, but he's not cookie cutting everything. Like a number of nations got that, but Canada is getting special treatment, Blake. Let's take a look at this. Juno News reporting, U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, has stated that the U.S. will not commit to a trade agreement with Canada by July 21st. U.S. throws cold water on Carney's July 21 trade deal deadline. You cannot, Trump holds all the cards. You cannot say, we demand, we want this. Carney is in no position to dictate anything to the president. The president's got him by the short hairs, okay? This guy, the cojones, and he's squeezing him, and he's feeling it. Go ahead, Blake.
Well, he's squeezing the Liberals because the Liberals' little bastion of supply management in Quebec is the one piece that needs to be broken. He wants the dairy supply management monopoly broken. And so does really the rest of Canada outside of Quebec. But Quebec, of course, is screaming, we'll leave if you do that. But where are you going to go, Quebec, now? You got a U.S. that's saying, well, you guys want to keep want to be your own country, Quebec, then you will have to pay massive tariffs. Well, the rest of Canada will enjoy a free market economy when it comes to dairy. So I think we need to stop pandering. That's a big problem, is that the Liberals created this mess with Quebec years ago to keep them in the country. We need to stop playing the game. This is the same political parties in Quebec that tell Alberta they're not allowed to separate if they want to go because they're not a distinct culture. What do you mean, Quebec? You mean you guys are saying, oh, so we can't continue to hold everyone over a barrel and keep feeding us money every year. So this could be the catalyst that breaks that finally. And Quebec, what are you going to do? Run to the EU? I mean, what are you going to do? You'll be like become Belle Island, another protective state for, and 3/4 of your land was Rupert's land anyways to the north. That will revert back to Canada. You'll have a little Laurentian strip of land between along the St. Lawrence River. So if you're going to be on the river, That's it. That's all you get, folks. You get a couple cities, you get that, and that was the original Quebec. The rest was Rupert's Lands, which went back to Canada. You just happened to get that because it was turned over to you to manage. So, yeah, this is what it's all about, folks, in Canada. It's about Quebec and this split dual state mentality. And I think that's coming to an end. Trump will break it. He's saying no more. We're going to have this fractured Northern agreement where you have these monopolies and supply management built in to support one province, Quebec. Quebec, you're on notice, folks. You're on notice. And Carney, I think he'll break it. I think he'll break it because Trump will force his hand.
Well, it's very interesting, Blake, because Quebec is a bit of an anachronism in 2025. The whole idea of a distinct culture, a distinct society called Quebec, in the face of relentless onslaught of foreigners being brought in from different disparate parts of the world, largely India, which have no investment in Quebec or in France or any of that history. And in the post-nationalist state, in the forward-looking, multicultural, multiple, fragmented Canadian identity, such as it is, Quebec stands out as a sore thumb. It really is an anachronistic. And so I think even on that, Quebec's having a harder time in the face of a changed zeitgeist, a changed consciousness that sees Canada as this post-nationalist state of Islam and Khalistani influences that are no longer, and the Caribbean and all that's going on that makes Canada anything but what it was. That old Canada is dead and gone, and Quebec's holding on to an image of Canada that I think has seen its day. So I think Quebec has an even harder time trying to justify and rationalize that distinct society in the face of this relentless onslaught of foreigners arriving.
Well, and I think without Quebec, the Liberal Party's dead. They would never hold power again. They get enough seats there that gives them their majority. That's where a big chunk of their power base is, by pandering to that Quebec 25% of the population vote. And which is interesting because Quebec wants to manage their own immigration. They wanted to, which is actually not a bad thing, because I think maybe the provinces should all stand up and say, sorry, federal government, we want you dumping, millions of people into Canada. But the fact is that I'm sure Trump's looking at this and going, Canada's a mess. Financially, it's going down the tubes.
Thank God.
It has a dying population. I listened to Frank Vaughan. He's hitting a bunch of over the weekend. He was going on exactly the stuff I've been talking about for a while. And that's literally, we're in a demographic bomb in Canada. And that bomb, and it's true. Why are they dumping millions of unskilled laborers and workers from the third world into Canada right now? Very simply, it's a mad scramble to cover those liabilities. We don't have enough people in Canada. We went for a 40-year run of not having enough children, and that we went into negative growth. Without immigration, we would be a collapsing society. Socialism, which is great about socialism dies on the vine when a population collapses, because they need people working to supply workers to fund the socialist system. That's why Canada's in big trouble right now, and I think Trump knows it. Again, going back to he holds all the cards right now.
Canada,
strong.
Yeah, Canada's a small country population-wise, and so when you start adding, so many newcomers, like a million, close to a million came in the first 4 months of this year. When you get numbers like that, it's going to radically alter the demographics. It's going to radically alter the fabric of the nation. This is an interesting thing that Sue came across in her traveling. It's Eric St. Pierre. I'm a St. Pierre. He's probably a cousin of mine. I just saw an A&W ad. No English or French spoken. The fact that Canadian companies are switching their ads to foreign language speaks volumes at the mass migration we're experiencing. Make Canada Canadian again. I don't want to live in New India. Let's play the tape. I'm kind of curious about this one.
You'll love it.
A&W's Masala Veggie Burger.
Look at this guy's just filming it from his house. He's singing it. Can't believe what he's saying.
Well, and I think the reality is that's become the the equivalence of mass migration from in the U.S., where they see a lot of Spanish-speaking peoples from Mexico and Central America and South America, outside of those from Brazil, because they're not Spanish-speaking, they're Portuguese.
Yeah.
But the reality is you'll see commercials and whole television networks that just operate in Spanish. And I think that's very similar to what's happening in Canada, is that everybody thought for the longest time we would have our next second language, most powerful language would be Chinese, right? Cantonese and Mandarin. But that has changed. It's clearly India has become the go-to area to bring as many people here and it's not India shoving people. This is Canada just bringing people in, saying, come here, we'll put you up. We just need bodies to contribute to our economy. That's what they want. Cheap labor, and brought over en masse like this. But the problem is it's too much of a shock. You have to gradually do it so that the people can melt into the melting pot and be part of society, learn our culture and values. That's why they have problems with the third world like experiences in places where there's high concentrations of this third world migration here, where there's like garbage all over the beaches and people are crapping on the sands and doing stuff like that. It's just, that's what they do there. There doesn't seem to be a respect for the environment around you. So they haven't had time to integrate. They haven't had time to integrate.
No, we're the people with the manicured lawns and and the gardens and all that. That's our culture, right? So it is different, and there is conflict there. Peter Ducey, the big story right now is what the hell's going on with the Epstein file. Pam Bondi was out there saying the files are on my desk, we're ready to go. Axios broke a story saying the FBI put a memo out saying there is no Epstein client list. So heads are kind of spinning. People are going, what the hell's going on? And so to his credit, Peter Ducey, what happened to the Epstein client list? Pam Bondi said she had on her desk. Karen Levitt, the AG, was referring to all the paperwork related to Epstein's crimes. Let's play the clip and make it big and play our way, Sue.
So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again.
So what happened to the Epstein client list that the
Okay, so that is absolutely not, it isn't sufficient an answer. You got another Caroline clip for us, Sue? All right, let's take a look at this. Okay, let's see what's going on here. At this X22, this is a great channel. If you don't follow X22, well worth following. Tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children. Well, there is no evidence. We got nothing. Make it big and give us a roll, Sue. See what we got here.
Tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently tens of thousands of.
Okay, and also Carolyn Levitt in her press conference as well addressed that point. So, well, why aren't we seeing this? I thought there was film. She said part of the reason you haven't seen that is that there is actual child pornography on film. They've got that. And they didn't want to release that to the public for the obvious reasons, because, morons like Herc out there would be jerking off to it. So we don't want that to happen. Okay. Settle down, Herc. I know you got about that.
Herc.
Yeah, it does Herc. The Axios memo, as concerning after all, it's not like liberal media would intentionally put out fake news. Apparently, Carolyn Levitt is acknowledging that Axios report is a legit leak. I mean, the memo is legit. We just have to see how hard can we pretend that our orange ditty? You know how it's really easy, because why come up with a Steele dossier and fake charges against Trump, which were proven fake, when you got him on the island? Let's cover. Surely you Democrats could control the media cycle through Rachel Maddow and George Stephanopoulos and your absolute corrupt cronies, and so as to frame Trump, so as to frame the president, and just leak his name is the only name you need on there. Let's protect the Clintons and let's get Trump on that. They didn't do it because they couldn't do it. It wasn't there.
I heard a really interesting take on why it's not being released at the moment, that it's coming, but apparently, many different kind of legal cases where you're criminal cases, and there's a lot of people on it. You're trying to follow the fingers, who's pointing to who and who's behind the scenes, and they're trying to go through everybody. But then somebody pointed out is saying it could be, and I don't know if this is again speculation on a wild scale, but they're saying that the administration could be using it to get the deep staters to point fingers at each other, that they've got the list and they've got these guys by the balls now. We've got video of you there. Now we want you to do this, right? And
twist their arm.
Well, exactly. So, he's got power before it becomes public. So in a sense, kind of using it for the same reasons that a lot of people assume that potentially Epstein Island was part of a deep state operation to get people to do their bidding, right? And capture them doing something naughty and get them on video, and then they've got you. You're going to do what they want.
Yeah, they need somebody to turn. And I mean, they've got Ghislaine Maxwell, but clearly she's not talking. Okay.
No, she's not dead yet, so maybe she doesn't know enough.
Well, I mean, there is. Well, no, we know that she knows. We know if anybody knows anything, Maxwell knows. Okay, do you want to make this big and play it, or is it the reading or the text that you want to highlight?
Read the text first.
Okay, let's go big. Is it the stuff underneath? To CI Director John Ratcliffe, all the world can now see the truth. Brennan Clapper Comey manipulated intel, silenced career professionals, all to get Trump. Thank you to the career CIA officers who conducted. Why would those fuckers have gone to all that trouble if all we needed to do was legitimately get them on the island? You wouldn't have to risk this kind of news getting out. Can you make it big?
So President Trump is very serious, obviously, about working to achieve that maximum transparency. That transparency will allow us to bring about accountability around the Russia collusion hoax, for example. The more we dig, the more we find the extent of the seriousness and the intent of that whole operation was very consistent with what we found in Stalin's operation. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. It is disheartening to see these things, but it also provides us the opportunity to tell the American people the truth about what's been going on so that we can make sure we try to bring about an end to it and bring about that accountability.
So I think everybody knows by now we were lied to about COVID. We were told if you take the shot, you're never going to get COVID. You won't be able to transmit it to other people.
That's not the position of our channel.
Not too well. We're lied about the origins of
COVID. Are very much
we've been lied to about a lot of different things. FISA abuse, and they surveilled Donald Trump using something that the FBI was warned about. James Comey signed 3 of the FISA warrants. He was warned in August of 2016 that they were bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton, and it was a dirty Russian disinformation dossier. And then when they found out, they never went back to the FISA court. Is anyone ever going to be held accountable for abusing power to that level?
Well, that's the goal, Sean. That's the goal, is to find the evidence, find the documentation that proves this to be true. We've seen little bits and pieces of it that have been released publicly so far, but not anywhere near the extent of what the intent was behind this whole Russia collusion hoax. Obviously, the president was their #1 target. And there were also many other people around President Trump who were also targeted simply because they were friends of his or family members of his. We are digging deep to find everything that has been related to this. And I guarantee you there are some U.S. attorneys who are eager to see what we are finding, and in some cases are already working their own cases to bring about that necessary accountability. If no one is ever held accountable, we are going to continue to see this weaponization, politicization of the intelligence community, our law enforcement, the Department of Justice. And as you know, Sean, it completely undermines the rule of law and the American people's ability to have any trust whatsoever in these foundational principles of our country. And that's what we're trying to restore, that trust.
All right. Fantastic. So Blake, thoughts on that?
Well, I think I share the same view as many MAGA people. I think that would love to just let's get this wrapped up, get the information out, throw it out to the public, point fingers at who's the people behind it, because the Democrats did this for forever. I mean, they were crucifying people, throwing people in jail that had opposing views. They were the fascists, Herc. They were the fascist folks. They were the ones that were arresting people on free speech. They were arresting people for their political affiliations. But I see Trump. He's obviously trying to be a lot more cautious because that's exactly what the Democrats want to show him to be. They kind of gaslight everybody. Oh, you're the fascist, when it's actually them, right? This is the whole thing. As soon as Trump arrests somebody who's actually done something for real and wrong and gets thrown in jail, that's what they'll point that he's been using judicial lawfare to go after people of his political opponents. But the political opponents in this case were actually acting unlawful. So let's get it out there. Hopefully they can get it out quick. I mean, again, give him credit. We're not even barely 6 months into his administration.
Correct. Important to remember.
It's a long. These processes will probably take at least a year before everything digs through. Same with the Epstein files. They said there's thousands of hours of video taken, and there's going to be children. There's going to be people that are truly innocents that have been captured in that information, and they got to be very cautious.
Speaking out. Yeah, some have already spoken out. This is really interesting. Speaking of government overreach and trouble, Donald Best, do not comply. Canadian police now act as political enforcers, freezing bank accounts, destroying businesses, stripping licenses, targeting families of government critics. Chief Steve Bell proudly declared illegal political weaponization of police power on February 18th, 2022. No courts, no trials, no judge's order, just raw police power serving the regime with officers just blowing orders. Make this fucker big and play it away.
Gathering intelligence with those cameras. Can you elaborate, like, if the protesters at this point, retreat and go home, are they going to be getting sort of repercussions down the road? Or are you going to be sort of actively pursuing the people that you've been sort of documenting and filming who are still out there protesting? What are your plans after this, after the protest is over?
Thank you. It's a great question. And the simple answer is yes. If you are involved in this protest, we will actively look to identify you and follow up with financial sanctions and criminal charges. Absolutely. This investigation will go on for months to come. It has many, many different streams, both from a federal financial level, from a provincial licensing level, from a criminal code level, from a municipal breach of court order, breach of court injunction level. It will be a complicated and time-consuming investigation that will go on for a period of time. You have my commitment that that investigation will continue, and we will hold people accountable for taking our streets over.
And could I just...
All right. So, I mean, draconian measures. Now, the good news on that, we have one case that's going forward. One individual has come forward because their account was sanctioned, closed down, locked out. This is all part of the strategy of what they want to do. Carney had his hand in all that as well. So, he's not getting off scot-free. Hopefully, this individual will win their case and the doors will be blown open on that, and the whole world can look in at the festering corruption that is and was the Canadian government during 2018.
Well, that was the truckers' response to the truckers. Yeah,
Yes.
that was.
Yeah,
and Carney is on record to have provided the incentive to go after their bank accounts because he was the banker providing advice to the Trudeau Liberals at that time. So, yeah, he is not an innocent in this. Oh, I wasn't in the country at the time. Sorry, you are still providing direct information on how to do it.
As a former finance minister for Canada. All right.
Bank of Canada head.
He was Bank of Canada. Then the London got a hold of him, or UK got a hold of him.
Now here's the hypocrisy.
Okay, so police threatened to arrest a journalist now for filming the mob, quote, praying in front of Notre Dame Basilica in Montreal. Because the lone white woman documenting the truth and respecting the law is the problem here. So it's that double standard, and I guess you could play a bit.
Entendre de quoi? J'en fait mon travail de journaliste. Il est 17h28, tu avertis formellement. Si tu continues à créer la situation, ça va être une entrave. Quelle situation? Parce que je fais mon travail de journaliste. Tu n'as pas le droit de me toucher. Tu n'as pas le droit de me toucher. C'est un ordre.
Okay, so you got the French woman speaking French to the French people in the French province of Quebec. And meanwhile, you got all these Pakistani sympathizers doing their protest. No problem there. And we've already got other reports about the Pakistanis blocking traffic. And one of the lies...
Well, are they Hamas? Isn't it Hamas?
Or Hamas, sorry, yeah, they're a Palestinian. Sorry,
Hamasols.
These are the. Sorry, you're absolutely right, Blake. That's Hamas. But we already know that back in 22, when the original situation was going on with the trucker convoy, that they were talking to Ottawa officials and created pathways for emergency vehicles. No such contingency was put in place for Hamas supporters, Palestinian state, in their protest, and delays of ambulance and first responders has been an ongoing problem with those things. Rachel, what's that third flag Blake is flying? It looks a bit like an Albanian flag. Blake, what do we got? The Black Death Circle. What the hell we got there?
That is the Blackball Ferries flag. So they've got their own. So that's at the port at Port Angeles, where the motor vessel MV Coho runs between Victoria. It's a ferry between Victoria, British Columbia, and Port Angeles, Washington. And when you come in, that's what they create. So that's their ship's flag. Private.
All right, Blackball Ferries. I've been on them myself. Rachel, what's wrong with Pakistani sympathizers? Nothing, as long as you obey the law and that you don't block up emergency vehicles. You have a right to protest to a limited extent in Canada. Basically, you don't even have that. You're allowed to protest if the government allows you to protest. Whenever they decide that you're going against their narrative, then you're not going to be allowed to protest. That protest won't be going forward.
Well, and it's not even really Pakistani sympathizers that were, again, Hamas, that's Palestinian. So that's more tied to that. And what you'll find is 3/4 of the people at those protests are the same people that showed up at Antifa. Yeah. They are white, far left lunatics in masks, half of them. So the same people.
Yeah. And the usual suspects, as we say. And then in more good news, the government is clearly planting stories and priming the public for Canada should consider, this is a Globe and Mail, this is kind of like Canada's version of Wall Street Journal, New York Times. Canada should consider hiking the GST, which is a governmental sales tax, and other taxes to pay for, because they need to come up with 5% spending on military, on defense, per America's incredible president, Donald John Trump.
Yeah, well, that's the 5% of GDP, and that's also to satisfy our agreement now with the European Union, which has not passed Parliament. So Carney, again, has not sat and passed any laws.
Literally,
He hasn't done anything yet. He's over 90 billion in deficit already from promises that he has yet to bring through Parliament. That's what's crazy.
Let's take a look here.
No, I hate fascists who dress as anti-fascists, Herc. They are fascists. They
Yeah,
beat
lighten
people in
them
the
up.
streets. They're the brown shirts in mass, except the black bloc are fascist.
Are we the baddies? That's what you need to be wearing. You know, you're the one with the death skulls on your clothes. So Blake, I see that we've hit the 1 o'clock. Final question, and then we'll wrap this session. Everybody, by the way, give us a thumbs up on the program and subscribe if you're new around here. But Blake, one final thing. Have we heard the last of Epstein? The whole Epstein thing, is it over? Is it done now?
No, it can't die. It is a major piece within the MAGA movement. They want answers. They want blood. They want justice. And it has to come out, because the amount of weaponization that's been going on behind the scenes by the deep state, it's got to come out. They have to do it. If they try and bury it, it's just going to continue to fester and cause problems.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Blake, do we get you tomorrow for the Tuesday show?
Yeah, we'll be
All
here.
right. Blake will be here tomorrow. I'll be here tomorrow. Hopefully, you'll be here tomorrow, folks, for another Daily Nooner on Ghost Town Politics. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. Even you, Herc, you trouble.